Welcome to my show. I'm a guest here. Her name is Alexia Harrigan. Dr. Lexi, how are you doing, ma?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you very much, Dr. Lexi. And also, thanks so much for the time and opportunity, Dr. Lexi. Firstly, you are an author. You are also a speaker and a resilience expert. Can you please, Dr. Lexi, discuss more about yourself and how you are doing currently now, Dr. Lexi?
Profession, I'm a physical therapist. I specialize in women's health. I just released my book a few months ago called Sunny with a Chance of Showers, and it's about my grief journey after losing our son. Um, and so I have extensive experience on individuals um, overcome obstacles, navigate life challenges, as well as build better resilience so they can face the challenges in life.
Oh, that's very huge. My heart goes to your lovely son, which you guys really lost, which also gave the inspiration for you to go to a point of writing a book, which shows the value of grief and also the impact you want to make to the society to make every other person also understand what grief exactly look like and what one can also recover due to recover from this grief that they found themselves into. And that is why I also like you to dive more on your book Sunny with a Chance of Showers. Can you please discuss more on that book, Dr.
Mhm.
Lexi? And do you also have more books from the experience you are trying to write in the coming future, Dr. Lexi?
Yes. So my book, Sunny with a Chance of Showers, it basically chronicles my grief journey and the lessons that I've learned along the way. It it gives practical tools to help individuals navigate their grief as well as support those that they are around who may be grieving as well. And I really just try to give people hope because oftentimes when you're in the depths of grief, you just can't see any kind of light. And coming up, I do have another book, a companion book to this book that I've released. It's a devotional journal, and it'll kind of walk people through some of the steps and give them thinking prompts and journaling prompts to help them navigate their grief.
Yeah, I will definitely be expressing that. But the beauty of sunny with a chance of showers is also very important for someone to definitely check on when it comes to grief. It is a very, very powerful book, to be honest. And I would like to dive to the point of the human centered approach to grief. We definitely know every single person in this life will definitely experience grief. And every single person in this life will definitely pass on to the to the world that we find ourselves today. It's something that can happen anytime in life. So, in your view, what do you think a more compassionate and a more centered approach to grief, what do you think it actually look like? And also, what do you think are also some myths about grief that you've personally found most harmful or probably limiting for people in pain, Dr. Lexi?
Yeah. So some of the things that can help have a more compassionate and human centered approach with grief is understanding that everyone grieves differently. And even amongst like in my situation with my husband and I, we both grieved very differently. And so because of that, it created some friction um, initially in our grief journey because we were both grieving. Also lost a child, and her husband both grieved differently as well. And that also created friction. So understanding that some people may do a lot of crying, they may do a lot of, sitting in silence. Other people might throw themselves into work and not want to talk about it. So the person that's crying may look at the person that's not crying and just kind of working and trying to manage things as they might interpret that as you don't care as much as I do because you're not crying like me or you're not falling apart like me. But that may not be how they grieve. And so understanding that everybody grieves differently is really, really important. Um, some of the things that can be harmful, some practice that can be harmful as you're grieving is to stay silent. When you don't communicate, when you're not being open and honest about how you're feeling, it can be very damaging because grief is very isolating. And oftentimes we can get sucked into that darkness of I'm alone, nobody understands, nobody cares. And that can lead us down a very dangerous path. We were never meant to grieve alone. We were never meant to walk that path without community, without communication and comfort. And even if someone is hasn't experienced exactly what you've experienced or what you're experiencing, just being open about I'm not doing well today and allowing that person to just sit with you, even if they don't understand, just to be present, huge comfort. And so just trinity, those things can be very harmful.
Definitely, I honestly agree and also relate to what you said currently, Dr. Alexia, because when it comes to grief, it is definitely not easy. And definitely every single person have to understand that grief are being, experienced differently. So some people might cry, as you said earlier. Some people might just go to work or do something to just keep themselves busy. Some people can feel pain. Some people might really change, and it's just different, just depend on how a person usually experience grief. And it's just definitely a very very inspiring a message that every single person needs to know. So a person not crying doesn't mean a person is not probably in pain that the situation actually happened. Probably as you said earlier, as you've lost your son, the way you grieved during the time you lose your son that time was really different from the way your husband actually reacted towards the situation. And that does not mean probably he or you do not really care that the child actually passed away. It is very painful. It's one of the most painful things to actually have a child that one is taken care of and actually realize that he or she is no more alive anymore. It's not easy. And probably some people, as you said earlier, some people usually feel like they are alone. They're in a position whereby they are just themselves, and we are not meant, as you've said earlier, to experience grief alone. It is not easy doing it alone. We have to have companion, we have to have friends, we have to have family who will be there for us. So, what would you try to say to someone who probably feels stuck in this grief for months, even if possible, years after loss? What do you think? Do you think there is any time, or is there is any right time to heal, or do you think the person has to just work on him or herself to get that healing? Dr. Lexi.
Yeah, so there is no real time frame, for navigating grief. Um, there's a misconception that um, you should get over it at some point. And really with grief, especially with deep loss, there's no getting over it, right? Because the love is always there and that person is not there. So because of that, there will be pain. There will grief will always be with you. However, it's how you respond to it, how you choose to navigate it. There's life through grief. There's life after loss. It's just how you navigate it. And I think that when we understand that there's not really a time frame, um, however, it is how you choose to respond to your grief. And that's really what um, I would encourage those who may feel stuck in their grief and like they can't move forward, because there's not really a getting over, but it's moving forward. You're moving forward with that love. You're moving forward with with those memories. You're moving forward with that love and understanding that is how you choose to respond. Grief will have you thinking that all this is happening to you and that you have no control. But you do, you have choices. And one of the things that my cousin told me not too long after it happened, if you need to cry, if you need to lay in the bed, that's fine. Do that. She said, but give yourself a time limit. Say, this is a bad morning. I'm going to be in the bed till 2 o'clock. And then at 2 o'clock, I'm going to get up and I'm going to take a shower, or I'm going to get up and I'm going to sit on the couch. Right. So until 2 o'clock, I'm going to do all the things. I'm going to cry, I'll wail, I'll journal, I'll sleep, whatever I need to do. But at 2 o'clock, I'm going to get up. And that was so empowering for me because even though I might get up and sit on the couch, and I probably will cry on the couch too, I also understood that I have a choice in how long I allow this grief to impact me right now. It's not going to stop the sadness, but I will choose how I respond. I will not allow the grief to beat me and make me think I can't live, I can't move. No, I have choices. And I think understanding that and embracing the power that I have, because grief doesn't define who I am. It's something that I but it's not who I am.
That is so emotional, to be honest with you. Definitely, one has to know how to heal. And as you said earlier, it doesn't have timing. If it is cry that have to make you heal, you have to do it. Anything that one just have to do to just probably give that healing towards the grief, one should just actually do it and know how to use it as a source to definitely improve him or herself and also become a better person. It's definitely not an easy time, but we have to definitely have companion and definitely have this sense of getting to move on and also getting probably with crying or anything just want to do it to just make this grief to be something because definitely it's definitely coming, weeping stuff like that, pain and stuff will come in, but it always does not have the time it definitely needs. And also that's what make me dive to the point of grief when it comes to growth, when it comes to clarity and deeper understanding. Do you also think it's possible for grief to be a very good gateway for growth, for clarity, and so for self understanding? And how do you think one can also go about that, Dr. Lexi?
I believe grief is a clarity giver. When you lose someone significant, you have deep loss. It has a grief has a way of stripping away the nonsense. It the things that you might have made a big deal out of aren't that important anymore. It gives you very, very clear definitions of what matters and what doesn't. And so for me, there were things that I realized I didn't necessarily care about anymore. I didn't like anymore to participate in anymore, or things that I didn't realize this at the time, but as I was processing and going through my counseling, I realized, you know, my values include spending time with my family. I value my freedom. I value learning and having wisdom. And so I was able to center my life more around that versus just mindlessly working, because that wasn't, while I love what I do, it wasn't adding the value to my life that I really want. I wanted to spend more time with the people that really mattered to me, right? I spent a lot of time at work, and I would admit I was a workaholic. I worked all the time. And then when I lost my son, I realized that's not the life I want, right? So it brings clarity. And I think when we experienced the pandemic, a lot of people got a chance to just stop and breathe and go, wait a minute, what's really important to me? What do I really want? What kind of life do I really want to have? And people are making different choices based on that. And that's what it does give that to make different choices on what's really important to you. And I think on your journey of healing, and I strongly encourage counseling is so important. I know family is helpful and things like that, but they are not trained individuals to help you navigate the issues that you have or things like that. But you have someone um, who you can talk to that is literally paid to not judge you, and they literally can't tell anybody. So you might as well just talk to them.
Hmm, that is very, very important and also very inspiring on its own way. I also always definitely imagine that I would have even known you a very, several time ago because they are definitely important thing that people who are probably, facing grief or probably are still facing grief after some months or years we definitely have some clarity when it comes to life. Definitely when we have a situation when it comes to grief, we will be in a position whereby there are some things that will definitely would not be valuable, and there will also be certain things that will definitely be important to us. We'll have a sense of, changing, or also sense of getting things to be in its own right order. And that is what is definitely important, include, grief is something that will definitely change us. It could change us. It could make us find some clarity on what is right and what is not right. And from there, we can
Mhm.
definitely use that to definitely improve ourselves and also become a better person in the society we find ourselves. And also, lastly, Mrs. Dr. Lexi, for someone that might be listening right now, and they're also in the middle of grief, and they feel like they will never feel okay again due to the grief. It was just too heavy on them. What would you like to say to them? And also, what do you think is one idea, practice, or message from your book, which is Sunny with a Chance of Showers, that you hope every readers can carry with them as they heal, Dr. Lexi?
Yeah. So for those that are navigating grief and they don't feel like they're going to be able to move forward and things like that, um, one thing that I'd like to encourage them is to understand that you now have a before this and an after that kind of life. And so that loss is like a page turner, a chapter turner. And so you have the control to rewrite the next chapter of your story. It'll never be the same because you're not the same. That loss has changed you. And so you now have the choice on how you want to move forward. The memories, the love that you had with that person, they don't go away. The grief will be there. It won't always be on the surface and as sensitive and as painful. It may you might be have some great days. You might have some great years and months, and then you might walk through the grocery store and fall apart. And that's okay. That's a part of the journey because the love is still there. Your life won't be the same. There's not necessarily going back to the way it was, but life will be different. There's a new normal, and you have the choice on what that new normal looks like and how you want to honor that memory. And oftentimes we'll take one bad incident and they'll take that loss and let it overshadow all the great years you had with that person. I had 22 months with my son and it was amazing. And I refused to let one terrible night rob me of the memories and the great times that I had with him. And I choose to remember those days. I choose to laugh about how silly he was and how much attitude he had when I would try to get him out of the bathtub when he had a really great time, and how many jokes he told, and how my husband and him would play different games and run through the house yelling at the top of their lungs. Like, I love those memories. And I want to remember those because they were really fun and really filled with joy. Do they hurt sometimes? Yes. But most of the time, I just smile and they bring me so much joy. So for those who will read my book, I hope that they understand that they have a choice in how they choose to respond to their grief, that they're not alone. And while life won't be the same, it will be different. There is joy, there is hope, there is light, there is life after losing someone that you held dear. And you don't have to allow the grief to take over you or your life. You do have a choice.
Definitely. And I'm also definitely a very big witness to what you're saying. Grief is something that will definitely happen. And it depends on how we definitely, see it and how we definitely use it to become a better person and probably become the otherwise. Some people have had grief to a point whereby they turn to someone that is definitely more worse than before. And some have grief to a point whereby they become a better person, and they've done several things that they could do to honor such person to become a better person, to become someone that could be more profoundly inspired in the society. As a person who, like you, as you are, that you've lost your lovely son, you've become someone that have grown, have more clarity within life, and have some kind of truth when it comes to life. Grief always usually give us this sense of truth and sense of imagination, as a very, very person, and also become a better person he or she find herself. We shouldn't choose a path that is otherwise. We definitely have to choose the right path that will definitely help I and help every single person in society so we can become a better person and build a better society. Definitely, grief is not easy. We definitely have ups and downs. We definitely have pain, sorrow. Sometimes we feel alone. Sometimes the pain strikes. Sometimes we see some things around us and we definitely feel it. But that should make us to just have the sense to become more better and also try, your best to just do things that could definitely impact the society. And definitely your book, Sonny, with a chance of showers, definitely dive more in those perspective. Dr. Lexi, there is a question I normally ask during the end of the show. From our forefathers, from our ancestors, there are a lot of beautiful things that do exist during our ancestral time that is missing in our time today. If there is anyone or anything you would like to bring back to our time today, Dr. Lexi, what do you think that thing will be, Dr. Lexi?
I would probably want to passionate with each other, just in general. As a society, I'm in the US and there were just better times where people were more likely to hear each other. And I think we're just too polarized in this day and age. Um, and I think every civilization and every time frame had its issues. Um, I just think that there was a time when we lived in better community. There was a time when you could walk down the street and greet your neighbors and everything, you could share things and people were more thoughtful of others. Um, and I would love to bring that back.
Yes, definitely. Humanity. Humanity is something that we definitely have. Community is something that we definitely hope that we definitely have in our time because it is definitely not an easy time that we are currently. We are in a time whereby we are more of, isolated, more everybody are more of alone to do a lot of things, which is definitely not helping in some certain ways. So if we have this kind of genuine connection, have this kind of genuine communication within ourselves, I think we'll have a chance, and which definitely help in some situations like this, grief. And I don't even know how it will look like if every single person are isolated and we definitely lose a very loved person. How can we definitely get the sense of family, friends by our side? It's definitely not easy to have a time of grief, and for most of the time, with someone who he or she definitely loves, as you said earlier from your love list, it's definitely not easy. So, community and humanity is something that will definitely help us to get those type of things out, to get this type of healing that we definitely need. We might cry, we might, but definitely to help us, and definitely we need a sense of community that we have had during our historic time. Technology has done a lot of great things, but we definitely it has disconnected us physically, and we definitely hope that that definitely come back in the coming future. I also want to use this opportunity, Dr. Lexi. My heart goes to your lovely son. I do hope that you've gotten some child that you definitely I'm hoping to also have in the coming future. I definitely sincerely thank you for the time and the opportunity you've given me today to discuss on grief, which is a very, very important thing. Every single person will face grief, pain, and how one we manage it and how one we use it as a memory to benefit every society he or she find itself. That's what really matters. So thank you so much for the time and the opportunity. Thank you so much, Dr. Lexi.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Dr. Lexi. Have a wonderful day, Dr. Lexi. Bye bye.